Good Monday morning to you. Welcome into Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, with you for the next hour, having some fun, recapping an exciting weekend. Oh boy, it is the SEC is the gift that keeps on giving. Both Alabama and Auburn on the road in two very opposite games. I will say that. Auburn traveled up to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Alabama taking the trip to Tennessee. Let's start with the Auburn Tigers. Auburn solidified their, at least the share for the moment in time of the SEC regular season title after a 94-78 win over Kentucky. And we thought, or at least for the most part, we all know how good Janai Broome is. And the one thing that keeps Auburn so good is around the pieces around Janai elevating their game. Well, we got one surprise. Not even gonna say surprising because he has been coming on of late. We had one great performance from one Miles Kelly, gives you 30. Chad Baker-Mazara giving you 22. And Janai Broome early on, it never really felt like he got into the groove of it, but everybody else stepped their game up. And Auburn absolutely, I never really felt that Kentucky was in the ball game. And if there is any question of who is the best basketball team playing in college hoops right now, you just present them the Auburn Tigers, especially since the back half of the season. Ever since that loss to Florida, they've turned it up a notch. We've questioned them the past couple of weeks. Like, okay, when are they going to have that just dominating win? Well, they've done it. They did it last week. And now that we flipped over the calendar to March, this is where it means business. And Auburn has jumped off to a wonderful start. Tahad Pettiford coming from the bench, giving you 21. Chris Moore dropping you 5. And then Janai Broome, only a quiet 9 points. Had some early foul troubles, couldn't really get into the groove and swing of things, but everybody else picked up the pieces, and that's why Auburn is really putting themselves in the driver's seat of not just the number one team in the nation, not just number one team in the SEC, but looking to have that number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, the game, Auburn was impressive. Well, the part of the game that we were able to watch, because, of course, if you're watching on television, the game cut out in the second half and never came back. So that was interesting. It was kind of funny seeing everybody, theorize, oh, I guess Kentucky just didn't like getting an ass whooping on national television. They had to cut the cord on the broadcast. But yeah, that was a little weird. But for the parts that we did see, what more can you say about Miles Kelly, who was absolutely on fire, shooting from three on Saturday? I mean, 9 of 14 from three. That pretty much tells the story for you right there. But yeah, you get 22 from Chad Baker-Mazara. I mean, Janai Broome, like you said, I mean, he had 1 point in the first half on a free throw. He didn't make his first bucket until like a couple minutes into the second half of the game. And again, if you're Auburn, you're going on the road playing a top 25 team, a place you haven't won in 37 years, and the National Player of the Year scores 1 point in the first half, gives you 9 points for the entire game, and you win by 16 on the road. Like that, that'll work. You'll take that if you're Bruce Pearl. And, for Auburn, obviously we're going to talk about what happened in Rocky Top here in just a minute, but, with, this win paired with Alabama falling to Tennessee, you are now the SEC regular season champions. So it'll be interesting to see how, do you rest some guys these next couple of games? Obviously, we know you have the IBOB coming up on Saturday. I would imagine, that one you're going to be ready and getting up for that one. But, in this midweek, do you maybe rest a couple guys? I would imagine you still go out there and start your same guys, but maybe you take them out of the game a little earlier, just kind of give them some fresh legs. But that's the luxury of the situation that Auburn's put themselves in, right? The fact that they've dominated the SEC slate up to this point, gives them that option. So, no, I mean, super impressed with what they were able to do. And now, I mean, for Kentucky, it was a good thing you got that win over Oklahoma in the middle of the week. Because this was the concern, right? Sandwich between Alabama and Auburn. You knew those were going to be two tough games. And now, Kentucky, again, they're still going to be in the tournament. They're still going to be in the top 25 later today, I'm sure. But they've now lost 5 of they're 5-7 in their last 12 games. So that's not the direction you want to be trending heading into the postseason. But Yeah, what a season for Auburn. I mean, seriously, this is, and this is the reality of it, and this is probably going to make not going to win too much favor with Alabama people when I say this. But I think we can look at this right now and say the reality of it is Alabama's had a fantastic basketball season. Coming into the year with I guess, the preseason hype you had for Alabama and Auburn, I think based on what we expected coming in, I think Auburn has had the year that we thought Alabama would have, and Alabama's had the year that we thought Auburn would have. And that means that they both had excellent seasons.
Right.
But coming in, remember, there was a lot of talk that Alabama might be the number one team in the country coming into the season. That wasn't the case, but they were a top 5 team. Auburn was a top 10 team. And that's where we are right now, right? Auburn's the best team in the country, and Alabama is still very, very good. They're still definitely one of the 10 best teams in college basketball. But yeah, I think you can look back now and go, okay, the way that we were talking in the preseason, Auburn is kind of having the season that we all thought Alabama would have, where they were just clearly the best team in the conference. And so, I mean, hats off to Bruce Pearl for what he's been able to do this year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was because we talk about a lot of these teams in the SEC. It was, we know Auburn has Janai Broome. What other pieces do we think that will, I guess, how would Auburn take it to another level in the event that Janai Broome wasn't, at 100%, or maybe he had some cold nights? But then we got just a plethora of guys. I mean, Denver Jones had a couple games. Miles Kelly had one last night. Chaney Johnson started to ascend later on in the season as well. Todd Pettiford coming off the bench. Chad Baker-Mazar. Like, it's the pieces started to fall into place, and now they're playing even above their expectation. And I think that's what makes Auburn so dangerous. And especially the past 2 games against quality competition, they've gone out and mopped the floor with them. Like, it was no chance. There was no point in that game that you really felt, man, if Kentucky could make a couple shots here, and it still felt like Auburn had an answer on the other side. They'd make a defensive stop, go down, get in transition basket, and things like that. So this Auburn unit and what we've seen from them this season, they're clearly the best team in college basketball. Not to say that Cooper Flagg and Duke and those boys aren't good. It's just now Auburn's starting to do this to quality competition. Now they're not sleepwalking against the Ole Misses of the world. Yeah, Georgia played them close, but to go on the road in Rupp Arena, place you hadn't won since 1988, and you go out there and you assert your dominance from the tip-off, it's, okay, yeah, this Auburn unit has taken it to another level, and now they're sitting at the number 1 spot. And it's not so much for the other team in the state, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I don't like bringing up, referees and things, but it kind of felt as at some point, I couldn't find the difference if they're just letting the boys play, or are they missing actual fouls? Like, are they just saying, okay, this game is just going to be this physical? But it wasn't like neither one of the teams were just trying to jump away and get a lead, because it felt like shots weren't falling for anybody. But there were some questionable things that went on, but Alabama falls, and, typically you can say it was March fashion. It was one of those, they get down there, they tie it up. You lead Tennessee with about 2 seconds left, take it up for a 3-point shot, a 3-point heave, and it goes in, and Tennessee knocks off Alabama 79-76. And I don't know, man. Alabama's probably one of the more the confusing teams of when they're on, you cannot deny how good they are. It's just, man, if they get into these lulls, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch guys continuously miss shots, but it's just the style in which they play. But I think that for Tennessee, because they're so known to being as physical as they are, I didn't know whether the refs were just like, okay, we're going to let this go for an extent. And then when it starts to get in, the last 2 minutes of the game, it's like, okay, some things that you weren't calling in the first, 38 minutes now are starting to be magnified in the last 2 minutes. And it didn't necessarily feel like Tennessee took it from Alabama. It kind of felt as though Alabama they added more pressure than was already needed in the ball game.
Well, okay, so I'm going to say both of these things, and I'm sure, whatever, people latch on to one and not the other. So there definitely felt like there was a turn with about 3-4 minutes left in the game where, I'll be completely honest. Yeah, I'm an Alabama fan watching it. The referee said, all right, Tennessee, we got you. I'm going to be honest. Like, that's how it felt, because there were multiple times I'm sorry, the double fouls where Tennessee goes to the free throw line, then they call Stevenson because he like shoved somebody going for the rebound. That was weak. The fact that on, I guess the final possession for Alabama, because they ultimately wouldn't be able to inbound it, the fact that wasn't a foul on Phylon when they are literally ripping the ball away from
Yes.
him, and they were like, oh no, that was a jump ball. When they called the jump ball, the ball was on the floor because the dude had been ripping and pulling at his wrist
Yep.
and grabbing the ball from him, and you didn't call that. I mean, there were multiple opportunities there where, straight up, it felt like the official said, all right, this has been a close game. We're going to now give you some home cooking, and we're going to try to help you win this basketball game. However, despite all of that, Alabama's last 30 seconds of this basketball game were an absolute and utter disaster. And, Nate Oates, credit to him after the game for acknowledging that and essentially putting the blame on himself. But that doesn't excuse what happened. And so that's why it's frustrating because, you can look at the officiating and, I will say this. I'm glad to say that you felt the same way too, because then
Oh,
it makes
man.
me be like, okay, I'm not just
Nah, you wasn't tripping.
the Alabama fan here getting pissed off. Like, okay, no, I'm glad to know that it looked that way to other people. But you can also look at it and go, okay, despite that, I mean, you still should have been able to win this basketball game, right? You had a 4-point lead with 30 seconds left, and you find a way to lose. And I mean, so first off, why is LeBaron Philon inbounding a pass in that situation? I mean, and for whatever reason, that's just been kind of difficult for Alabama this year. There's been multiple times in games like this where, critical inbounds late in games just haven't really been their strong suit. And why you have, I guess one of your smaller guys and that a true freshman making that kind of critical decision in that moment. Nothing against LeBaron Philon, but in my opinion, that's just a Nate Oates mistake of why is that the guy that's inbounding the ball for you? You also have multiple timeouts. If it's even if you're at 3 seconds on a 5-second violation and you're feeling, this isn't looking great, you have an extra timeout, burn it. Like you
Exactly.
lose nothing by taking that timeout and just resetting the inbound play. That was bad. Why is Cliff Amori not coming up and covering Meshack when he's coming down? He doesn't have enough time to get to the paint, and Cliff Amori is standing there at the free throw line like he's just things like that where it's just inexcusable, and it's like everybody simultaneously for Alabama had a brain fart at the same time. Like just the most common sense stupid stuff. And there were like 3 or 4 of those things that happened back to back to back in a 30-second span of time. And I mean, credit to Meshack, right? That was a great shot from the logo. For him to hit that, I would imagine if you're Alabama, that's one of the guys. You probably weren't too upset that was the guy that was going to have to take the shot, and he just hits it, and it is what it is. But that one's frustrating because, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I didn't walk away from that game. I don't view Alabama any differently. I looked at that as Alabama, in my opinion, was the better team for 39 and a half minutes.
Yep.
And then you just had, a catastrophic final 30 seconds, and it is what it is, and you lose the basketball game. So, you got 2 more left. This was a tough one. Of course, it's ironic. We talked about it last week. Alabama, under Nate Oates, had never scored 75 or more against Tennessee. Well, you get to 76. And, I was sitting there watching it with my friends late, and I was like, man, they're just kind of sitting here around 73 points. Like, we've never scored 75 or plus against Tennessee. Like, it just seems kind of fitting that maybe, you're going to go cold offensively down the stretch, and you do get 76, but you needed a couple more. And, the free throw shooting was bad. You shot a little over 60%. That was inexcusable. You're still turning the ball over. But again, I walked away from that game as, man, Alabama was the better team for 99% of that basketball game, but they ended up losing, and it is what it is. But now Tennessee, they're on the 1 line. Alabama's going to be on the 2 line. But the good news is you got Florida and Auburn, and if you win both of those games, you're definitely going to be a 1 seed, I would imagine. But if you get one of them, you're going to be right there in the thick of that conversation for the committee. So it's not the end of the world, but in terms of just regular season losses to feel like you have the game. Okay, yeah, this has been a hard fought win. It's been a battle, but Alabama's been the better team. Let's just close this thing out, get out of here with a win. And then for it to end the way that it did, it was pretty disappointing, but
Hey,
it's It's all right. You got March coming up. Bigger things are ahead. You just got to be able to bounce back. Have a short memory, right?
Got to, man. Got to, because it's only gonna get harder from here. It's only gonna get harder from here, and it's survive in advance at this point. It's survive in advance. That's all you can do. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls always welcome here on Morning Jocks as we get the recap and reaction to Auburn's win against Kentucky, Alabama's loss in Tennessee, and also take a peek at what else went on in the SEC. And boy, oh boy, South Carolina, they just keep finding a way. We'll get your reaction on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5.
Welcome back into Morning Jocks, 6:20 here on your Monday morning. Conrad and Damien here with you, recapping everything from a busy weekend of college hoops. Got a lot more to get to from both the SEC as well as some other teams around here. Locally, there's a big game in Bartow Arena yesterday between UAB and Memphis. We'll get to all of that as well. But first, we have to go back to Friday and some really, really sad news that came out on Friday from the Auburn family. And we just want to send all of our thoughts and prayers to not only Auburn, but especially to Hugh Freeze and his family. Because if you missed the news, Auburn put out a statement on Friday, and I'll just read it to you real quick. Quote, recently, Coach Hugh Freeze was diagnosed with an early form of prostate cancer. Thankfully, it was detected early, and his doctors have advised that it is very treatable and curable. He will continue his normal coaching duties and responsibilities, and with forthcoming proper treatment, is expected to make a full recovery. Coach Freeze is incredibly appreciative of our medical professionals and has asked that we use his experience as a reminder of the importance of prioritizing and scheduling annual health screenings, end quote. So thoughts and prayers to Hugh Freeze and all of the Auburn family, and hopefully, this is all taken care of here, and Hugh Freeze can go and kick cancer's ass. I think we can all get behind that. So, some sad news out of Auburn on Friday, but it does seem like, I guess, given the circumstance, that this is probably one of the better outcomes you could have hoped for, and it looks like he's going to be taken care of, and everything will be all right.
Absolutely, man. Just thoughts and prayers with Coach Freeze and dealing with this, man. Cancer sucks, man. Anybody that has, we've all had, family members, and it's affected all of us. So, like you said, everybody can get behind this. Make sure that Hugh Freeze makes 100% recovery, man, because it's tough, man. It's tough. But again, they got it early. They detected it early on, and they're expecting him to make a full recovery. So, thoughts and prayers with Coach Freeze and all of Auburn as they deal with this difficult time. But just taking a look back at the SEC this weekend, Texas A&M, they fall to Florida 89-70. And Missouri starting to hit kind of that late season wall. A team with so much promise. They go to Nashville, Tennessee, and they fall to Vanderbilt in overtime 97-93. Mississippi State knocks off LSU 81-69. I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to come back to it. Ole Miss squeaks by Oklahoma 87-84. And Georgia defeats Texas 83-67. There was another SEC matchup, and a team that is literally on the brink of absolutely wrecking everything that they need to. The Arkansas Razorbacks took a trip to Columbia, South Carolina. Again, South Carolina has won one conference game.
One out two.
Make it two, as they knock off the Arkansas Razorbacks 72-53. John Calipari, there is no excuse for this. Like, this is one, like, it's just, you cannot explain it. You really just cannot, because you pretty much have just thrown your season away at this point, because that loss is going to derail you from anything that you have as far as your resume when it comes to discussing about NCAA tournament bids. And I think now, after a loss like that, and as bad as they looked, you had everything. You had it right there for you. You finish out the regular season, and you probably can make some. Now you're going to have to win the SEC tournament in order for you to solidify a spot in the NCAA tournament.
Well, so as of right now, they are still in the tournament, but you have Vanderbilt and Mississippi State coming up this week. You're going to need to win at least one of those. If you win both of them, I think you're good. But you're going to need to win at least one of them. And if you don't, yeah, like you said, you're going to have to go and make some serious noise in the SEC tournament to find your way back in. But, yeah, this is, like you said, inexcusable to go. And I get it's on the road. All right, if you lose by, again, you lose on like a buzzer beater or something, you lose in overtime in a close game. That's still not a good look, but, you can maybe wrap your head around that. But to get absolutely blown out by the worst team in the league in a situation where, Arkansas has been playing much better basketball here over the last handful of weeks, and then to have a performance like that is pretty shocking. And just, yeah, you're now trending in the wrong direction heading here into the final week of the regular season. And there's honestly a lot of SEC teams that are kind of in that boat right now. And what looked like, it looked like, granted, it might have been a little bit of a pipe dream, but there was a path to getting 14 teams in the NCAA tournament. And now it's looking like it might even be more likely that instead of 14, you end up with like 10 or 11, just because of how some of these teams have struggled here late. But yeah, if you're Arkansas, that one's absolutely disgusting. I will say though, based on, because you hit on Vanderbilt beating Missouri, beating Vanderbilt, that's that's a quality win. I'm not gonna be surprised if Vanderbilt's in the top 25 this week, or right there, knocking on the door, being in the top 25. And so if you're Arkansas, that's a massive opportunity. And Mississippi State as well. They're right there in that boat too. So, you have some opportunities left, but you get that win in South Carolina. These last two games, you're probably still good, right? Regardless of what happens. But now you find yourself in a situation where you absolutely need to win at least one of these two games coming up here this week for you. And yeah, it's just how the mighty have fallen in the last couple of weeks, because there are a number of SEC teams that are now going to find themselves right there in that bubble conversation. There's a lot to play for this week. So just looking at some of the latest from Joe Lunardi. So you do have, on the one line, you do have two SEC teams. You have Auburn still as the number 1 seed, Duke number 2, Houston 3. Tennessee now moves up to 4 after their win over Alabama. So Alabama slides back. They're now on the 2 line, but they're the top number 2 seed. Excuse me. They're the 5th overall seed. Florida, the 6th overall seed. Michigan State, the 7th. Iowa State, the 8th overall seed. So those are your 2 seeds there. Then you have Texas A&M on the 4 line, as well as Kentucky. So those are your SEC teams there at the top. But if you look at the last 4 teams in, there are 3 SEC teams in that bunch. You have Georgia with their win over Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and the Corn. Nebraska is also one of the last 4 in. So they're all well represented here when Molly's here, at least. But yeah, and then on the first 4 out, you now have Texas. So Texas, a team that a couple weeks ago, I thought they were in a better spot than Arkansas, Georgia, or Oklahoma.
Yep.
They now find themselves on the outside looking in, while those 3 teams are hanging on for dear life. So that's 4 teams there, right there from the SEC, that are essentially 1 game away from either being knocked out of the NCAA tournament, or maybe 1 big win away from getting themselves back in the tournament. So a lot to play for. It's just the opposite of, like we talked about with Auburn, right? You've already locked up the regular season title. You can kind of handle this week however you want to, right? And there's now a number of other teams that are in desperation mode here in this final week, and they really, really need to get a big win or two to solidify their standings in the NCAA tournament. So it should be a fun week. It'll be interesting to see if we have some upsets of some teams that are maybe, we're in the home stretch. We've kind of got our seeding locked up. We're fine. And then you have these Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas teams that are just, what do we have to lose, right? We have to win a game. Let's throw the kitchen sink at them and see what happens. So it should be an interesting week of SEC hoops there. A lot of movement in the bracketology world from the weekend.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. Begin some reaction here on the Jocks text line. You can always text in, call in as well. Somebody texted in and says, is there danger that Bama could fall to the 3 line with 2 losses this week?
No.
No, I think they're locked in for the 2 spot.
I was about to say, if they lose both of these games and lose the first game they play in Nashville, they're not gonna fall off a 2 seed.
Fanboy texts in and says the Bama game was weird. I just walked away feeling that Bama can beat that team 20 times in a row. Like I said, man, I just think
that's what makes it frustrating. You're like, man, I just watched this team be better for 99% of the game, and yet they still lost.
Yeah, it felt like Tennessee was playing with most of the pressure, and then the last 30-some seconds, it's just like, what could have gone wrong went wrong, and I still don't understand why you leave with a timeout. The situational awareness, I think it's questionable and disappointing to have so many. You have so many veteran guys out there, and also Nate Oates as a coach. You have to, it's the situation. You just got to know the situation. I don't know, man. It was just I said.
That's why after the game he put all the blame on him.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like Tennessee took it. It's Alabama just absolutely threw up on themselves. Literally the last 30 seconds of the game. What all could have gone wrong went wrong.
Yep.
And then, of course, March Madness. Welcome to March. A buzzer beater. Welcome. This is going to be something we're seeing the rest of the way as we get closer to tournament time. Somebody texts in and says, living off Bama tears this morning. Go Vols. Yeah.
Yeah, probably a good morning for you.
It is. Somebody texts in and says, Alabama plays with their food too much.
Yeah, and I mean, that is fair. There were points there in the second half where, it felt like, and again, you have to give credit to Tennessee, but there were multiple times where it felt like, all right, Alabama was maybe like a big 3-pointer away from really kind of separating themselves in that game, and they just couldn't do it.
Yep.
Couldn't do it.
Going back to the Auburn broadcast, somebody texting, what's the excuse ESPN giving for why the game was cut off? I don't know. They just said it was technical difficulties.
Someone with a generator went out, and that was my understanding.
Ain't no telling. Somebody texted in and said, good morning, fellas. Please tell Grant Nelson to stop shooting threes. Go down on the block and score.
Yep.
At some point, we're going to get a good Grant Nelson. Maybe he's waiting until tournament time to turn it on, but you want to talk about unfulfilled expectations all season long. But it's just kind of the way the ball bounces, man. Welcome to March. The madness has just begun. 205-834-9450. We continue with your text message, your calls on the other side, reacting to what an exciting SEC weekend of basketball we got. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. .635 here on Morning JOX, March the 3rd. Damian Mitchell with Conrad Van Order. And, of course, you are wonderful listeners. 205-834-9450. 0. Oh boy, there's some frustrated fans.
Well, the good news, if you're a frustrated Alabama fan today, is spring practice starts for football today, so you have something else to
Hey,
start stressing about a little bit.
there we
But
go.
yeah, spring practice starts today in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer is going to have a press conference at 10:45. We'll have that live for you on 3-Man Front later today. I will actually be down there covering it live.
Attaboy.
So we will
Crimson Conrad in full tilt, baby.
That's
Even
right.
in spring.
They might not let me in, based on some of our listeners that don't think I'm actually an Alabama supporter. So hopefully they let me in there. But yeah, it should be a good time, and yeah, you'll be able to hear that at 10:45 on 3-Man Front. And I mean, it's the first day, so you're not going to hear anything crazy or whatever. But it's just crazy how it doesn't seem like all that long ago we were getting ready for the national championship game, and here we are getting ready for spring ball to start, and I'm ready for it. I love basketball, but having a little bit of football mixed in there now for the next handful of weeks, I'm excited for that. I do know for Auburn though, they're doing spring a little differently this year. They're not starting spring. I think I saw March 25th. But I know Hugh Freeze announced they weren't going to do it until after spring break, which is next week. So at the earliest, I guess you would get it on March 17th, but it looks like they're going to start a little later than that. But Alabama is going to get going later this morning down there in Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely. So you'll have the updated depth chart for the quarterback room by tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, what that question looks like, because I mean, if nobody else is going to ask it, I guess I'm prepared to ask that question. I don't really want to, because I feel like that's just one of those questions that coaches hate. I
Right.
imagine yeah, I don't know, man. It's the start of spring practice. We have months to figure this whole situation out, but
Like who is getting that first team rep? That's all we need to know.
that'd be a heck of a way to start off the hey, before any of y'all ask, I just want to let you know we have already decided that so and so is going to be the starter for Alabama this year. Don't ask me about it. I'm letting you know right here off the bat that's not going to happen.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. Continue with your text messages, your calls, recapping both Auburn's win over Kentucky, Alabama's loss in Tennessee, and other news around the SEC. Grumpy, the bus driver, texting. He says Auburn won despite referees' one-sided calls. Bama can't blame the refs. They were obviously the better team. Just got to finish. Don't keep those timeouts in your pocket.
Yeah, and I mean that's the frustrating thing where, when we were talking about that is, I definitely thought the officiating was questionable, but that's not the reason you lost the game, because you still had a 4-point lead with 30 seconds left and you found a way to throw up all over yourself. So, yeah, it's frustrating. And I mean, hey, we had, I know, y'all had Richard Hendricks on Mac and Cube, I think last Monday. We had him on Friday. And, one of the questions I asked him was, just what, from a player perspective, what is it about playing at Rocky Top? Why is that so hard for Alabama? And he straight up said, that is the one place we went where there were just phantom whistles. Like there were just things that were getting called that you would kind of just look at and go, all right, we're playing Tennessee. That's just how it's going to go. So, I don't think we're crazy by bringing that up, but at the same time, no, it's not the reason you lost the game. You had plenty of other opportunities. Again, even outside the 30 seconds, right? You don't shoot 60% at the free throw line.
Yep.
Probably win that basketball game. So
make a couple more shots.
Yep.
Couple more threes. And how about Chris Youngblood after the back-to-back, pretty good games that you have? He only shoots the ball 4 times. You telling me that whole game you can only find 4 shots?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, it felt like at the end when you had that inbounds pass. First off, just going back to that situation, it shouldn't have been what it is. But you're telling me you don't have a single inbound play for those types of situations where somebody's going to get open and you can just get the ball in. Like you don't have that play in your back pocket. But on top of that, it definitely felt like that was an opportunity. And I know he didn't have the best day, but Sears is going to be double teamed, right? That's the last guy they want to shoot the ball. Holloway's not out there. It felt like, all right, this is a play. Like they're going to draw this up for Youngblood. And it's going to be maybe like, oh, we didn't expect that guy to get the ball. We thought they were going to go for Sears. And just the fact that you didn't have a way to, whether it was him or somebody else, a play ready just to get somebody open.
Yep.
I think I know what they're going to be practicing.
Yeah. And you had 2 timeouts.
You got some big dudes on that team that probably have some more length when they're trying to throw the ball in too.
Exactly.
Just common sense stuff.
I'm telling you, man. Oh, this should be fun, man. We should be this should be some entertaining radio right now because we have Bama Hater who hops in and wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Hater?
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, ain't no complaining.
Son, man.
What's up?
Man, look, I think we need to change that cliche from March Madness to March Happiness because I was kind of happy Saturday after that last shot. hey, man, let me tell y'all guys something. And I'm calling it to rebut for all the non-Elephant fans. First of all, man, there were bad calls throughout the game. It just didn't go on Bama side or Tennessee side. I can remember the play when Tennessee's point guard got tripped. He got virtually tagged. He tripped. The guy tripped over his foot. It was a foul. It was a non-call, but that didn't have anything to do with the outcome. This is what I want to know from a coaching perspective. If you're up that many points, or if the game is tied and you're in the bonus, why not foul the guy when Tennessee caught the ball inbounds? Give him 2 free throws. You still, I mean, they may miss. There's a lot of things that could have happened that didn't happen. You can't blame that on just the last play. It's a lot that came before the last play. And I heard Conrad say about Alabama having the lead 90% or being the better team for 90% of the ball of the game. He didn't have that much to say bad about the Gravedigger when Auburn was in the lead. So why is it a problem for Tennessee to win that game that way? What's good for the elephant is good for the gander. You guys have a good day.
Okay. I mean, that was an interesting. I mean, Bam Hater, you got a lot of time on hold to listen to the show, but you apparently chose to not listen to the show. And what? I mean, okay.
He brought back an iron.
I mean, I'm pretty sure when we talked about the Gravedigger, we talked about how Alabama played really bad for the entire game, and then they won on a miracle play at the end of the game. I do not remember anybody on these airwaves coming in here and talking about how dominant Alabama was that entire game. I'm pretty sure we gave Auburn their credit, and then we criticized Auburn for having boneheaded decision on the final play and the way that they covered it.
Right.
Similar to the way that we've been criticizing how Alabama handled the final 30 seconds of this game, which they lost.
Yeah. I mean, he could have gone to, more recent losses too.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to a Miami basketball update from him, but they are just so dog crap and one of the worst teams in the Power Four that I'm glad to know that he's watching Alabama instead.
Oh, boy. Who knows? Well, we can only go up from here. Let's go to Don.
I just hate waking up with hate in my heart, man. That's a bad way to start the day.
Let's go to Don this morning. What's happening, Don?
Good morning, guys. How are you? Yeah, Conrad, that last comment made no sense. That even I got to tell you that one. That made no sense at all.
Oh no, and Bama Hater's been brewing on that one since Saturday afternoon. He was ready to come on here and share it, and it just it fell flat. Bama Hater, come back, be more creative next time, my friend.
He's my buddy and everything, but my buddy, you can come up with something better than that, man. Even I got to agree with Conrad on that one.
And he's been on a good trajectory here. He's had some good calls lately, but then sometimes that hatred he just can't help himself because he's such a miserable Miami basketball fan. It's really sad to see.
Well, I think they're 6-22. If you want me to tell you the record, okay?
Oh yeah, no, they're literally the worst team in Power Four. They're an embarrassment.
Well, you know what? Let me go to something else. Let me go to the best team in the country. And 3 weeks ago, I did say what I said, but they're proving me wrong, Damien.
They are.
Everything. But Conrad, buddy, I was trying to poke the bear. I don't know if you and Damien got the messenger I just sent you. That's the way you're supposed to. That's my favorite version of Dixieland Delight I've ever heard.
Which one? What version of Dixieland?
Oh, I sent y'all a messenger of the Tennessee fans doing their version.
Oh, I got you.
And everything. But Conrad, buddy, your take this morning. Hey, first of all, thank you for your wishes about Hugh Freeze, both of you guys a minute ago. That was a very, very classic, guys. Thank y'all so much for that.
Well, it's bigger than, we love sports and we love the rivalry, but human beings are much more important than.
If the shoe was on their foot, on the other foot, I'd say the same thing. But I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But no, your take about the Alabama game was spot on, buddy, and everything. But I want to ask a question. Why would you have a freshman throwing the ball in? Why couldn't you let Brett Nelson throw the ball in?
That was my thing. I'm like, you have multiple guys. You've got Grant, you've got Cliff, you've got Cheryl, you've got a bunch of guys. You got Diabate, like guys that A are more experienced and B have more link to them, and it's going to make it easier for them to inbounds the ball. Don, I'm right there with you. I do not understand why that was the decision.
And also too, my friend, you got to take when that happened, you got 2 timeouts. Take a timeout about how you're going to defend the play.
Yeah, and I will say, Bama Hater did bring up one good point on his call though. Like, why are you not just going and fouling the guy and sending him to the free throw line? At the very least, I mean, put a hand in his face when he's shooting the three. Like that was that was questionable.
I don't think you do that, buddy. Because I mean, that was like almost a half court shot, kind of like what Michigan State did to Maryland last week. No, I don't think you foul them because it'd be like us against Virginia, where the kid made all 3 of them to beat me in the Final Four. Okay.
You grab him before the shot goes up, and then he only gets 2. But even if you don't do that, I mean, still, just put a hand in his face, right? Don't give him a wide open shot to win the game.
But that game, Conrad, buddy, that game ain't really that big of a loss for y'all. I mean, you got March coming up and everything. Just do it in March like you did last year.
No, you're right. And that's why I said, I mean, I didn't walk away from that game feeling any differently about Alabama. It just, it stung a little bit. That was a tough way to lose.
But on my Auburn Tigers, Broome probably had his lowest scoring game of the year and everything. That just proves to me how good of a team that we have. Because my goodness gracious, man, Miles Kelly was just on fire.
Oh yeah, he was
and
hot.
He even banked Damon. He even banked back-to-back ones too.
Yeah, it's open on Saturdays. It's open on Saturdays too, man.
That's when you know.
Hey, and everything. But I got something funny to say, and it's been on the Auburn board all up for the last 48 hours.
It better be funny.
I think the Kentucky fans went outside and set the generators on fire on purpose for nobody could watch how bad their team was getting beat.
Yeah, I don't think that they like that too much.
Yeah, but hey, that's ABC for you, Conrad. Hey, how mad would you be if that was Alabama, Conrad?
Oh, I wouldn't be very happy, especially with, the fact that it was a close game. At least in your game, you kind of had a feeling of the way that it was going to go. But, I mean, I still would have liked to watch the last 10 minutes. That would have been nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, good. Thank goodness it wasn't a close game, okay? Well, that really would. I was mad and upset. That really would have been worse. That would have been worse, okay?
Yeah. No, you're spot on, Don.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all very much, and I'll see everybody tomorrow at Social Tacos. BB's birthday party, by the way, guys.
We'll be there. We'll have a big time. Appreciate you calling it.
205-834-9450. We'll go to your text message. Your calls will wrap up here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:52. Excuse me. 6:52 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order here with a few more moments. Get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning. And then Conrad takes his talents to Tuscaloosa, his alma mater, to go lock in and give you some reports from spring practice as the Crimson Tide get to start their 2025 season with the first day of spring ball. He'll let us know who is the starting quarterback from this point forward and so much more. So it should be fun. And then, of course, the Paul Feinbaum Show from 2 to 6 here on JOX 94.5. Continue to get some reaction here on the JOX text line. Bennett, our buddy Bennett texted in. He says, I think my whole family cheered louder for Alabama losing than Auburn winning. A big part of being an Auburn fan is hating Alabama no matter what Don says. Hey, Bennett, you're too young to be this certified of a hater, dog. You got to develop that. Like that's kind of one of those things that happens over time. But right now, he's a big Auburn guy. Huge.
I was about to say they have every reason to be riding high. I will just say I have never once in my life cheered more for an Auburn loss than an Alabama victory. But you do you.
That would be a lot of cheering. That would have been a lot of cheering, especially during football season. But when you lose to common opponents,
well, it just kind of tells everyone where you stand when you get happier about someone losing than when you actually have success yourself.
Oh, and complete sidebar. Had a conversation with a listener that was talking about, my fandom the other week. And one, they were like, you need to make a decision. I was like, well, why do I need to make a decision? I think that's kind of the freedom of
this is your LeBron moment, your decision.
It's the freedom of being a free agent. Like, my school closed down. I built a resume over consecutive years to see, like, okay, who should I root for? That's who I go with. But Josh Heupel, I'm an offensive guy. I love the way his offense is, and I support whatever team he's coaching.
But you were supportive of him before your school shut down, so that doesn't add up.
Well, that's because professionally I had to make a move. I had to align.
So what's the difference now?
I have no homecoming. Yeah, like I'm a free agent, man. I'm on a year-to-year deal.
What was the offer that Pat made you on Friday about bringing back Birmingham Southern? And
y'all can keep that on 3-man front. Y'all can keep that on 3-man front. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Can't do it. Can't do it.
We were just trying to put out some more great content for our listeners, and Damian.
I told you I would much
Damian
rather.
said his schedule was full.
I would much rather align with Texas A&M and be a merry milkman.
Now that we could make happen.
Send me them
John
overalls.
Mack, yeah, put some overalls in the mail.
And y'all wonder what's going on at midnight on a Friday, going into Saturday morning, just like what's happening up there at JOX? Like, hey man, just hitting that midnight yell, baby. But yeah, hey, I'm here for it. But Bennett, you can't. You're too young to be a hater. You're too young. You got to develop that. But hey, he takes it personal. I'm with it though. It's too nice.
I respect it.
Exactly.
Say it with your chest. That's all you got to do.
He definitely does. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Those guys are next.